Welcome, Children of the Night, back to the Infernal Archive. On this episode, we'll be watching the 2008 Western horror film, The Burrowers. And I'm one of your hosts, Francois Nation.
I'm Andrew Sorsdahl.
And as always, I'll read the little Wikipedia blurb for you before we get started here. The Burrowers is a 2008 Western horror film written and directed by J.T. Petty. The film is based on an original short film, Blood Red Earth, directed by Petty. It cost $7 million to make, and it stars William Mapother, Sean Patrick Thomas, Doug Hutchison, Carl Geary, Laura Layton, Robert Richard, and Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown's in this movie?
Bunch of ball-washing bastards.
I'm already fucking sold. I love Clancy Brown.
What else would we know him from?
If you're an older fan, like a fan of older movies, he was in Highlander.
Okay, yeah.
Clancy Brown is in a lot of shit. He's always great. He's in Starship Troopers. He plays one of the like drill sergeants in that movie. Clancy Brown is one of those, like, he's like a voice actor in a ton of like cartoons and anime and always plays these awesome little bit parts. He's kind of like he was like, I don't want to say he was Ron Perlman before Ron Perlman, but he's kind of a Ron Perlman-esque type dude, like great gruff voice, like bigger stature, like older, gray, like
I'm picturing him. As soon as you said Highlander, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking. I love Clancy Brown. $7 million, not a cheap. I feel like this is like an indie movie, so it's a good little chunk of change for an indie movie. Don't really know anything about it. Apparently, it's about burrowing.
Scurry! Sniff! Flinch!
Thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you later with our thoughts about Burrowers in just a little while here. See you later.
I'll be totally wiped out. I totally never show. Totally charted. Totally.
Welcome, Children of the Night, back. We just finished watching The Burrowers from 2008, and what a waste of fucking time.
P fucking you. I would say it's our first stinker of the batch.
Yeah, it's really too bad, because the movie starts out, I don't know if strong, but at least intriguing, where it's like, there's a family, they're on the frontier, it's set in the Old West, and they're attacked in the middle of the night by unseen
mysterious wounds,
whatever, and then Clancy Brown shows up and a troop of, like, there's this Irish guy who's like a new immigrant, and
the guy who plays Percy Whitmore in The Green Mile, whatever his name is.
Sweet. Warden. Soft like a girl. Let him go. I'd really fuck your asshole. Then your sister's pussy, I think.
So a little posse is formed. They're like, we need to go out and find these people that are missing and whatever.
Before,
and it's like,
before they're killed by the whatever is taking them. They
and so that's like,
very racistly assume that it's a group of First Nations people.
Yeah, that's
that assumption is kept throughout the whole movie.
Carries on for far too long.
Even after they've seen these creatures, they
keep saying these well, and not in those terms, but these First Nations ain't like the other First Nations. Like,
it's clearly not a human being.
Am I a real boy?
I don't. Why do you keep saying this? But anyway, so yeah, it's like at the beginning, it's like you got some pretty good actors, decent enough setup, whatever. Like, it's like, oh, this will be a good little creature feature.
Has almost a Bone Tomahawk vibe at the beginning,
yeah,
sort of.
Totally. Like, basically the exact same setup as Bone Tomahawk, where it's like settlers go missing, posse forms up, they go after them, whatever. But whereas Bone Tomahawk has a very great build and like
satisfying payoff.
Amazingly set. Like, almost like Bone Tomahawk might be one of the world's greatest examples of, like, this movie is way more interesting than you think it is, because like I feel like so many people went into Bone Tomahawk blind and not knowing that it was the type of movie it is, and then when you get to the ending, you're like, oh, this is so fantastic. It had so much more going on than I thought. Whereas this film, like, I want to say fairly early on, you're aware that these are not your run-of-the-mill bandits or like human being enemies. Like, you're fairly early on, you're like, oh, these are creatures,
some type of supernatural creature-y thing. And
so there's no question there, really. And then by the end of the film, it's like, oh, these creatures are also very unthreatening. Don't really understand how evolution would create such a thing.
They're very slow. They're blind. The sun kills them
very quickly. They're easily stabbable.
One character dispatches an entire group of them quite quite easily.
Back into a bathroom stall and just start kicking. Dead, dead, dead. Keep coming, dead. Give them a narrow entry point. Make them come in single file. Dead, dead. Anyway, I guess I'm trying to say 800 fourth graders.
They're small. I don't want to say they're hobbit sized, but they're like dwarf sized,
They're
like
not,
or like Tolkien dwarf sized.
They're
like
not big.
Between a hobbit and a normal man. Like they're just very unthreatening, and their whole like modus operandi, the way they kill people, is like in the middle of the night.
Sneak up on them.
Yeah, if people are like sleeping on the ground, they come up and they slice a little mark in your neck, and then they spit in your neck, and then that paralyzes you.
And then they drag you away and bury you underground.
Yeah, and it keeps you alive. The whole thing is it keeps you alive, and then they bury you underground, and they fill you full of like venom or whatever, and then it liquefies your insides, and then they suck out your insides, which sounds really horrific, but it never.
We never really get to see that in any like it. Yeah, just not good.
Yeah,
just not good. Somehow. We've got a 73% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 34% audience score, which is way more in line with what I would give this movie.
The only people I can imagine like being like, oh, I unironically really enjoyed this beginning to end, would be like if you're super into the North American frontier and like the Old West setting.
Yes? I don't know nothing about no fancy dog code. I'm just a simple blacksmith.
Because like all the costuming and the whatever, the fields, that stuff is all very true to life and like feels relatively, what's the word? Authentic. So if you really like that and you just like seeing stuff like that, yeah, you could probably watch this movie beginning to end and be like, oh yeah, that was pretty decent. I mean, the little creatures might throw you off then. I don't know if like that would do it for you then. But yeah, I don't know, in terms of like a traditional narrative sense, the film. You have your goal, right? It's like, oh, they're going to go and they're going to find these missing settlers and they're going to kill the creatures. But pretty early on, it's established that it's like, there's no way these people are alive, yet they continue their journey on. And then
the group splits up at one point.
Clancy Brown dies.
Yeah, and Clancy Brown dies in a very very underwhelming way too.
Yeah, and it's like that was the guy, like that was the most charismatic character in your film. And yeah, then like at a certain point you ask the question, like, I don't really understand what the goal is. Like, are they going to kill a few of these things? Like, why does that matter? Like, are there thousands of these things? Or are there millions of these things? You have no idea what the scope of their spread is. And
the characters that you kind of gave a fuck about are all either gone or dead pretty early on, or not early on, but like eventually.
It's worth mentioning that this film for sure must have the Guinness World Record for amount of campfires in a single fucking movie.
Oh, easily. I would say like close to, without exaggeration, at least a third of the whole movie is set around a campfire.
It's
like,
funny.
Not exaggerating.
There's a line in the film where I think Clancy Brown says, he's like, we only have like a day or two until these people that we're looking for are for sure dead. But then the film goes on for like another 6 or 7 days. It's like, we've fully lost the plot here. Like, why are we out here? What is the goal? I was saying to Andrew, it's like, at least if like in the movie there was this weird thing that we're like, there's a mole people command ship and we need to get to the mole people command ship and destroy the command ship, and then that will destroy all the mole people. At least it's like, this doesn't make any sense, but at least there's a goal. Like, yeah. I get why you want to do this. But it's like there wasn't that. It was like I said, like hyper meandering plot. Yeah,
terribly paced. Dunkirk length, where it's an hour and a half feels like 2.5 hours.
Feels so long. I was so finished with that movie, probably a good 40 minutes before it ended. Like fully not invested anymore. The only thing that's worth saying is positive about the movie is like the performances are good. Like this is not the actor's fault. They did with the material what they could. They acted it out. They were very believable beginning to end. That was not the issue. So I feel bad that they had to be in a film that was just poorly conceived and put together.
Yeah, conceptually flawed, I would say. Not necessarily from the outset, but
yeah, it's like somebody
took it.
Yeah, it's like somebody had an idea for a script, and then he got to a point where he's like, oh, but what if everyone's dead?
Look at you now. We're all dead.
And then it's like, yeah, but now you need to give me another compelling reason to keep watching your film. And he's like, yeah, but what if I didn't have a compelling reason and I just kept the movie going for another 45 minutes for no conceivable reason?
Well, hey,
It's like,
maybe he was trying to go for the Guinness World Record
of most
for
campfires.
most campfire scenes in a given film.
And good on you, sir. You achieved it. The last thing I wanted to mention was the ending. It was one of these situations where it's like the ending fit. We've been talking in these shows about like following these rules of horror and having an effectively horrific ending. And the movie does have an ending that in a good movie would be great. But the problem is the movie's so bad and you're not invested in any of the characters and you don't care about what happened to anybody, that when they present you with this like, oh, look how horrific the ending is, you're like, I don't fucking care. I don't care about that guy. I don't care about that guy. I don't care about that guy.
Yeah, we really don't care about that guy.
Yeah, and it's
Referring
like
to the Percy Whitmore motherfucker.
Yeah, and had they taken some of the time that they spent having fucking campfires and meaningless conversations, like consolidate some of those scenes, do some character building, like make me really like some of these people, and like it's whatever.
The creatures have to be more threatening, also.
Oh yeah, they were.
It's
they almost felt superfluous. Like,
oh yeah, it's one of those situations that's really frustrating where it's like the creatures were more ominous and more threatening when we didn't know what the fuck they were.
Yeah.
And even then they were pretty whatever. But this is a classic example to me of a film where as things get revealed, it becomes less compelling, less interesting, and just generally
imagine if in Jaws when they finally reach the creature, it ends up being an invalid blind dolphin with no teeth, and it's basically just like rammed a person by accident and then just so happened to hit him in the right spot that killed him, and that was what all the kerfuffle was about. It was like, okay, well, we still need to kill it because it did kill a guy, but it's not really all that.
Yeah.
Oh no! Like that's what it felt. That exact sentiment is what it felt. It felt like this is so underwhelming. Like I could kill hundreds of these things with my feet, like, hundreds. Like these things would be easier to kill than 6-year-old children. I think.
Give them a narrow entry point. Make them come in single file. Dead.
Like 6-year-old children are fast, and maybe they'll
these
get
things
behind you.
They look like their very existence is agony.
You put on 2 layers of clothes. Hell, you're safe. Kill them, stomp them to death, stomp hundreds of thousands of them to death.
You give me a good pair of like hiking boots, maybe some steel toes. They don't stand a chance.
They are fucked. Like their whole race is fucked. Yeah, I don't know. Just not really worth seeing.
Skip this one big time. Miss us with that shit.
Watch Bone Tomahawk. Much better film.
Take this one. Don't ever watch it, and then just put Bone Tomahawk in instead.
There's this Irish creature feature it kind of reminded me of too in terms of like the quality of the effects and stuff. That's a much better film. I think it was called the Moors or the Glen or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out and then I'll put the little poster here. But that's also like a really good movie that had it's just better. It was done for a similar budget, but much better, greater payoff. Like whatever. Watch Bone Tomahawk and this Irish movie that I'm talking about. In conclusion, we will spin the unholy wheel to figure out what we will watch on the next episode.
Hopefully not a fucking stinker.
Where's the screen recorder? Start recording. There we go. And Andrew, if you will, do the honors. On the next episode of the Infernal Archive, we watch The Vanishing from 1988. Don't think we've watched an old movie yet, have we? Or an older movie?
Henry.
Oh, yeah, Henry, that's true. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us on the Infernal Archive, and we will catch you on the next episode.